Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso, because the lower third says so, and that's what I'm going to go by. And I was born with it. we have uh, we are joined today in isolation podcast territory, video interview territory, with a very talented creator. Know his work from Back to the Movies, and his website will appear in this lower third as I switch over to it. Joined today by the creative talent and creator of Back to the Movies, Sean Evans. How are you doing today, Sean?
I'm not too bad, buddy. I'm not too bad at all. I'm getting used to four walls and isolation driving me crazy. So yeah, there's a wall over there. There's a wall over there. We've become good friends. How are you doing, man?
Up in Canada, we have weed, so it kind of works out really well.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous right now. I'm just gonna just stare at these walls. I've even got water as well. That's even more impressive, dude. So thanks for having me on and for keeping me entertained for the duration of this podcast.
Not a problem there. Well, we also have entertainment as well too because of all the streaming services, etc. But when we last spoke, it's got to be at least 5 or so years ago, to be perfectly honest. It has been a while. You've exploded on the scene of entertainment and content creation when it comes to between wrestling and reviews of TV shows and movies to theme parks is your most current aspect of it. Tell us a little bit about Back to the Movies, how it all got started with.
Okay, so basically, I was 21 years old and I was with my ex at the time, and she came up with an idea of doing something special to commemorate my 21st birthday. So she had an idea of having video messages or autographs from celebrities to kind of mark the occasion. So something I could look back on in years and years and years gone by, and I could look back over this collection of video messages and autographs and say, well, these guys reached out to a complete stranger and wished me a happy birthday. It's people that I was inspired by, or movies that I enjoyed, and movies that I liked. And I was always telling her, like, no, that's never going to happen. Like, why would these strangers send a stranger, happy birthday messages? It didn't make any sense to me. I thought I'd give it a go, and I sent a few emails off, and I started getting replies from some quite well-known people, and I got a few video messages from some quite well-known people, and I thought, right, okay, these people are replying, they're emailing back, they're quite accessible, so I started building up a rapport with some people who replied back, and I thought, what if I made a hub to store these interviews, on? So I started speaking to the people who'd wished me happy birthday, built up a friendship with them, and they were some of the first interviews that I had on Back to the Movies. And then I started to do work with PR companies who would send over press releases of new titles, so I'd start posting those. And then it got to the point where screeners were arriving at my home, and then I started doing reviews. And then fast forward many years later, and it's basically gone from just a solid movie website that started to get, I don't know, back then was like 20 views a day, but I just kept going and going and going because one, I'm very persistent, and two, I'm not going to stop until I get to a certain number. So I'm going to be doing this till I'm about 90 years old. Sorry for everybody out there who has to suffer with that. But it just kept snowballing. And rather than just a movie site now, Back to the Movies, we do TV, we do products. I get sent toys to review. I started getting invited to theme parks. And that's all the interesting stuff that I'm going to be discussing with you today and boring your audience with, of course.
Look, I mean, any right-minded geek slash nerd slash whatever category you fit into, if they've followed me for these almost 12 years now that I've been doing this stuff, I think they're well aware of the type of content that we have on the show. So this will be right up their alley.
That's good to hear. I've got a lot of stories to bore, a nice wide audience for you. So
well, let's talk about the very first celebrity that gave you your happy birthday / autograph / interview with. Who was that?
The person to ever reply was Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett in Star Wars. He was the very first person to reply. He said, what do you want? Do you want a video message and an autograph? Do you want just an autograph? I was like, you've replied. That's all I wanted, and he was kind enough to do an autograph and a video message. But I remember the video message, it was so cheesy. He was like, happy birthday, Sean. But at the time, he was wearing a Boba Fett replica helmet that a fan had given him. So I'm freaking out right now because my inner Star Wars nerd was like, oh my god, and then, like this dude's like saying happy birthday, but like echoed within this Boba Fett helmet, and then he took it off, and there he was, and he said happy birthday, the nicest guy. And straight after that, the second person was a guy called Dick Warlock who played Michael Myers in, I think it was Halloween
Yep.
2, I believe, on the original Michael Myers. And he was in the season of The Witch as well, but he didn't play Michael Myers in that particular movie. But he was such a cool guy. Like every day, I'd log on to Skype, and he'd be like, he'd just ring me randomly. I was like, this dude like worked on Spider-Man. He was a stunt coordinator on Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Hollywood stories like packed up to the rafters, and he'd literally just randomly Skype call me when he was bored, and we'd talk about like PlayStation and stuff. And that's when I thought, right, this is getting a bit weird. Like at the time, I'd never spoken to anybody even remotely famous. At the time, the most famous person that I'd ever met in real life was a man called John Chalice, which is from a UK sitcom over here called Only Fools and Horses. And I remember being so nervous, like I went to get my book signed by him, and I was shaking, like literally this was the first famous person I'd ever met. And I was that nervous that I walked out of the book signing, and he come chasing down the street with the book in his hand saying, "You've forgotten your book," because I was that nervous. So yeah, that's crazy. And he actually follows me now on Back to the Movies, which is so weird. And yeah, so it catapulted from there. But yes, Jeremy Bulloch was the first. He was the original.
With this isolation aspect, it's as if it's not the apocalypse for geeks. This is like heaven for us. I mean, how has this been affecting yourself?
YouTube's become like my friend. YouTube, Netflix, and Disney Plus as well. Like all three of them have just combined into this trifecta of keeping me occupied. Like I've been binge watching Tiger King. What a show. Oh my god, that's amazing. I loved it. And then Disney Plus reached out to me a few days ago because I literally messaged them and said, I'm bored, please send me some press access. And they said yes. I was like, oh sweet, okay. So I was watching something called The Imagineering Story, which is about the Disneyland parks were designed, all the animatronics, all the rides, and obviously with my love of theme parks as well, it's the best thing for me to watch. And YouTube, I've been absolutely binge watching like vloggers like David Dobrik and Logan Paul, and just the stupidest people I can find to just fill me with information to keep me occupied. But yeah, it's great for content creators at home because obviously the blogging side of things, I'm inside anyways. Like the only other time that I'm blogging is when either I'm at a hotel after an event or I'm blogging traveling on a train, for example. Those are the only two situations that aren't outside of this very office right here. So basically in terms of that, nothing's really changed. The only thing that's changed is I can't visit these places or attend premieres to actually cover them, so they're being sent to my house. I think Paramount sent over some screeners last week. Like I just said, Disney Plus is sending over some things. I got Netflix and YouTube, and I think even today Disney Plus released the Simpsons short film. It's a little short that they made about Maggie Simpson, and I watched that today and posted a review up on Back to the Movies. Literally anything that I'm being sent right now, I'm going to post, because if it's keeping me entertained, it's going to keep someone else entertained who's reading and watching. But yeah, it's getting more and more difficult. I feel sorry for vloggers out there because I've got a YouTube page, but my vlogging content, I'm not a professional vlogger. My camera not great. My interviews are few and far between nowadays because there's so much going on with so many different genres and niches that I'm covering now, and I feel so sorry for them because they're always out and about, and that's how they get their content, their engagement, and it's getting more and more difficult for them to create engaging content. I've noticed a lot of the big names, instead of making their 10-minute videos so they can get the monetary value from YouTube, you got some of the biggest YouTubers releasing 3, 4, even 5-minute videos because of how difficult it is nowadays. And hats off to them. But if I had a big mansion and a pool, I think I'd be able to post a bit longer than 3 or 4 minutes of content. Hey, that's just me. I wish I had the luxury.
When it comes to the theme parks, though, that seems like an interesting topic because for me, my very first theme park ride was at Cedar Point in Ohio, Sandusky, Ohio. And it was on the Gemini, which is, I don't know if it's closed now or not, but it was a fun wooden roller coaster.
There's a roller coaster over here in the UK called the Wicker Man. I basically thought, right, I need to do something different on Back to the Movies. Why don't I try and do some sort of theme park related content because not many people in the UK were doing it. And I basically went online. I literally went on Google and typed in brand new roller coasters coming this in the UK. Literally, that was it. And a press release popped up on Towers and their coaster, which was a wooden coaster, funnily enough, just like the one that you experienced at Cedar Point, was coming in about 12 months' time from the time that I read it. So I reached out and said, is this roller coaster movie related? Is it something we can cover? They were like, no, it's not movie related. We're getting this quite a lot. We're going to have to make it more clear in future press releases, but we have added you to our press list. I was like, awesome. Okay. So fast forward 12 months later, and I heard absolutely nothing from Alton Towers. And I was thinking, okay, they've forgotten about me. They've got more important people that they could be asking to cover these rides, because the vloggers that do cover the theme park stuff over here in the UK, they are big. Like, there's one guy, he's got, I think, like 250,000 followers, and he could literally sit here and talk to you about how to make toast, and you like 100,000 views. It is incredible YouTuber, and he's just got one of them personalities that you can keep watching. And so I thought they'd go out to those guys. Now, as well as those guys, 12 months later, I was like, I got an invite to go and check out the new roller coaster, but I was on holiday, so I was like, oh, the first time a theme park gets back to me, and I can't even go and attend the press event. So I missed the press event. And a few days later, I was like, I'm so sorry, I missed the event. They were like, Sean, why don't you come down on your own and, check it out? Because the park still hadn't opened to the public yet. So instead of me going down with all the press and the journalists and the TV and the radio people, it was literally just me, and I could bring a friend. And we were stood in front of this giant wooden roller coaster that I built a huge wicker statue. And at certain points when you go through this wicker statue, there's fire that shoots out from it. So they had like screens of fire built into the actual wicker structure, and on the shoulders they had like flames that come out the shoulders. So I was like, this is epic. So you go into like your pre-show before the ride starts, and you're in like this wicker thing, and this projection mapping thing comes up and tells you a story, and you get like a whiff of wood smoke in the air that's pumped in through the ceiling, and you shoot up the lift hill, and it's intense. It's one of the most intense wooden roller coasters I've ever been on. And I went to a Halloween event the year after, and they actually let you ride the rides in the dark, so all you could see is flames and smoke. Can't see where you were going. I know the track layout off by heart, but in the dark with the fog and the smoke and the fire, it's an incredible experience. So that was my first theme park experience. And then I decided to set up another website called Lift Hills and Thrills, because I didn't want Back to the Movies to solely be covering theme park content. So basically, Lift Hills and Thrills is where I'd write such things as, I don't know, top 10 roughest roller coasters, for example. And Back to the Movies would be covering the press events, because that's the main hub of the website. And then it just kind of grew from there. Like a theme park called Blackpool Pleasure Beach over here saw my review of the Alton Towers one, had a new roller coaster coming, and I said I did work for Alton Towers, and they're like, well, if you did work for Alton Towers, you could do work for us. And that's what I kept doing. So I kept like pitting everybody against each other. I was like, well, I've done work for these guys, so I can help you as well. And obviously they want the press more than another park, so they kind of compete against it. And I get to ride roller coasters all day. I'm actually thinking about putting something together where I can combine my interviews and roller coasters, so that I can invite celebrities to the local UK theme park and I interview them whilst we ride a roller coaster. But that's something to be explored, because I can imagine that being very, very funny.
I believe it's something that Kevin Hart did with Jimmy Fallon as well.
It was on the Rock and Roller Coaster, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rocket Roller Coaster, yeah. And I saw one with Ellen DeGeneres and Usher as well, who went on Hulk over in America as well. So that was cool. But that was actually one of the inspirations, because I saw Kevin, he hates roller coasters, he hates live animals, he hates just about quite a lot of things, to be honest. And when he went on this vertical lift hill, his reaction is priceless. And I was thinking, if you could bottle that reaction with other celebrities whilst you're interviewing them, I think that could be some quite cool.
It's amazing how the simple things in life, or a simple passion for what you enjoy. I mean, I'm not sure if you enjoyed roller coasters in the past or not, but you didn't?
No, dude. Up until when I sent that press release off, I was scared of heights. I've actually got a head condition where I've got like constant dizziness and stuff like that.
Vertigo.
So riding a roller coaster would make that worse. Funnily enough, it doesn't change it. So I just kind of kept pushing myself. And there's a roller coaster. I think the highest roller coaster in the UK is one called the Big One at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It's over 200 feet tall, which is nothing for you guys in America. That's your children's roller coaster over there. But yeah, it's tall for somebody who doesn't like heights. And getting to the top of there, and just literally, it's right by the seafront. So as soon as you're at the top of the lift hill, all you can see is the beach and the sea that just goes out for miles and miles, and then you just drop. And it took me so long to get on that roller coaster. It's ridiculous. Even now, to this very day, inverted roller coasters where you've got nothing underneath you, you're sitting in a chair and the track's above you. Those freak me out all the time, because if there's nothing under my feet, I freak out because I'm looking straight down. My feet are just dangling. It doesn't feel right. And only this year that I went to an event called Winter Wonderland in London, and they have the tallest traveling drop tower in the world, and that is about 300 feet. And you literally got a harness. And I said to my friend, it's cold, it's winter, you know. We've been on everything else all day, so I pushed my fear. I've done all the flat rides and all those things that I don't usually ride, but I'm pushing myself to do. But the tower, throughout the day, that thing, I swear to God, got taller and taller throughout the day, because I was building it up and building it up. And I was looking up at it. I was like, I'm not going on this thing. The next minute, the harness is coming down. I'm saying to my friend, like, I really hate you right now. Like what is going on? Like, but I've got to do it. I've got to conquer a fear. And I've got my hat on. I've got my hood over the top. I'm saying to my friend, it's because I'm cold. It's not because I'm scared. I want something to pull over my face. And we ascend 300 feet. And not only do they keep you up there, they keep spinning you around. Oh. And you can hear the commentator down below with the speakers telling you, like, you're going to die, and something's failed on the roller coaster. Like, it eats you while you're up there, and it's horrible. And they've even got prodders in the back of the seats that prod you at certain points when playing. I'm like, oh God, just get me down. And when this thing dropped, I lost every ounce of my manhood at the top. I flew down to the bottom. Yeah, screaming, and it was probably the scariest experience that I've ever had. And I've made a promise to that same crazy friend. Shout out to Jim if he's watching. Happy isolation to you. Yeah, we made a promise that once all this craziness is finished, we're going to go to Vegas, and we're going to do the famous sky jump off the top of the big stratosphere tower. So that's going to be interesting. That's the ultimate feat. I think that's 900 feet.
Yeah.
But would you do it?
What, 900 feet or the 300?
900. Literally, you've got a vest, clips you onto a harness, you step off that building, and you ascend down to the floor.
Maybe if I was, like reliving an Assassin's Creed moment or something like that, possibly, but...
So they should wear like an Altair sort of cloak and literally just go down like this and just like film a cinematic video. That would get a lot of views.
Hey, Cass Amber, if you're watching this, that would be interesting. Give him some tips on getting a better Altair caliber. I really think it's heights for me. I'm the same way. Like, I hate heights. I force myself to go on roller coasters, and Raptor was one of the ones I went on at Sandusky. And I'm Canadian, so I mean, we head over every so often, and we have Canada's Wonderland up near Toronto and all that stuff. I like my feet on the ground. Even climbing a ladder sometimes can be tricky. It is what it is. But I really enjoy. I ride them. I'll enjoy it. I'll ride them a couple of times, but I make sure I never eat when I go on one of those things. That's for sure.
I remember there's a coaster over here in the UK called Nemesis, and it celebrated its 25th anniversary. It's a beautiful coaster. It's still running smoothly 25 years later, but the intensity. Every year it seems to get more and more intense, and we've just come out of I think it was a press meeting with the park, and they had like a little breakfast thing that I picked up before the meeting, and came out, and that was the first ride that I went on. And on the first loop I was like, yeah, breakfast is coming up, but we looked around just enough for the breakfast to come back down, and it was horrible. That was the first ride of the day, and I was pale as a sheet when I came off. I was like, I don't want to go on any more roller coasters anymore. And we were literally there all day and all night because the Halloween event goes on. I think it's from 9 o'clock in the morning till I think it's about 10 o'clock at night. So we were there all day, and after the first ride, I was like, dude, I'm done. But I'm always trying to push boundaries. We did actually go on rides eventually. I think I went to the went to the bar and I got a beer. Somehow the beer counteracted the breakfast, and I felt fine after that, and we are good to go. But yeah, it's one of them things where I'm trying to conquer fears, and I'm always thinking it's coming up to my. I'm 28 now, dude. Like, the time has flown since we last spoke.
Yeah.
I'm coming up to my 30th now. It's going to be, I've got 2 years to go near enough. So I'm trying to cross off things off my bucket list, and pushing my boundaries is something that I've done from day one with the website. I mean, I quit my job and flew to Los Angeles like literally a week after I quit my job. So I'm all about taking risks in order to get memories, because money's temporary, but memories last a lifetime. That's kind of like the twisty philosophy that I've got in my head. So the more crazy things that I do, and the craziest things, and the more I can push myself, maybe the more I can achieve. Or so I think.
You've also been in movies as well too, if I recall correctly. You were in one that I was interested in seeing. It was about oh gosh, this is where I'm forgetting. It was I thought Dame Judi Dench was in it or something like that, but I could be wrong. About a zombie apocalypse or something.
Glenn Close. I knew
Glenn
I knew
Close,
where
that's
you
it.
came with it. Yeah. Obviously, it was that good. You haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah.
Totally, but yeah, it was Glenn Close. I'm from a place here in the UK called Stoke-on-Trent, and it's a city right in the middle of the UK, about an hour away from Manchester. And I read in the newspaper that Glenn Close was coming to Stoke. I was like, nah, come on. Like, we're not the richest city in the world. I love Stoke. We're one of them cities that everybody who lives in it will trash it, but if somebody else from outside the city trashes it, we will trash them. That's kind of the mentality and the solidarity of the people of Stoke-on-Trent. But yeah, we're not the nicest city in the world, as was evident when a production company chose us as a dystopian kind of place for the zombie apocalypse. I was like, you've definitely been to Stoke before. Like, this is the perfect place to film that kind of movie. And then I didn't think it was real, and I sent a few emails off, and I found out that it was actually happening, and Glenn Close was actually coming to Stoke. And I made it my mission to try and find a production assistant or anyone who was working on the film. And I sent them an email. I said, right, I run a local film website, Back to the Movies. There's only one other big press outlet in Stoke-on-Trent, and that's a really big newspaper called the Sentinel. And I was like, right, I will cover the shoot, I'll cover the stars, I'll do interviews, whatever it is, just let me be on set. And she replied, she said, why don't you be a zombie? I was like, even better. So I went down on the first day of shooting, got a really cheesy purple jumper on that was filthy, got all makeup, blood scars and all the rest of it, and literally just stood around all day doing absolutely nothing and picking up a paycheck, which was epic. But the best thing was seeing Glenn Close. She was the nicest person in the world. She was speaking to everybody on set, and at dinner time she was just walking around with a pack of crisps and just handing them out, potato chips for you guys. And she was just handing out crisps to everybody and feeding everybody and talking and taking pictures. So lovely. This woman is a Hollywood legend, and she's just here in Stoke-on-Trent, and it was crazy. And yeah, because I think it was 2 days that we were shooting, and over those 2 days, you just kind of built up a little bit of a relationship with them. Like when there was an outtake or something funny that happened where they didn't get the right cut, like a blooper, for example. We'd all laugh about it. We'd have to reset our positions. Even though I was a zombie, I didn't really have any other position rather than staying really static. Because this zombie film, the zombies don't actually move until they hear sound. So I'm literally just there like asleep, which boded really well because once again, I was out on the second, after the first night, we had like a little party with all the people that were on set, and we all went out drinking around Stoke-on-Trent. So the second day, our acting was superb because everyone was tired, everyone wanted to go to sleep, everyone already looked like they didn't need makeup. So I think the second day performance, I think 2 of the second day shoots actually made it to the final cut of the movie. So we were convincing.
With all the content you've created, though, is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't done just yet, or is something that's on your radar that you're really excited to get done, other than things that you can't talk about?
There's a few things. Studio interviews would be a really cool one. I was this close to a studio interview this year, and it was for Trolls World Tour and they said, "Do you want to come down to London to interview Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick?"
Nice.
Now it's been, I think it's 4 or 5 years now since I spoke to Luke Evans for the Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies premiere, and I only got that because my friend works for a big American TV station, and he flew over to do the premiere and the junket, and said, "Sean, do you want to jump in on an interview?" So he interviewed, Orlando Bloom, and I sat in with all those guys, and he said, "Sean, do you want to interview Luke Evans?" I was like, "Awesome, yeah." But at the time, my website was tiny. I think that was like one of the first videos that I posted on Back to the Movies YouTube page, and it did pretty good. I think it's not a crazy amount of views. It got, I think, 20 something thousand, but it was 20,000 more than what I had been getting. So yeah, studio interviews would have been awesome, but this year completely wiped out. I was so excited about the Justin Timberlake one, because I literally had some merchandise sent over, all these little toy sets and stuff that they'd asked me to review, and I was going to do like a little game show between me, Justin Timberlake, and Anna Kendrick.
Oh, nice.
And if Justin won, I could give him the prize to give to his kid. If Anna won, she could have had the prize, or we could have like goofed around with the prizes. And I had like a little plan in store for that, but that unfortunately didn't happen. But yeah, studio interviews are definitely on my radar. Other than that, I'd like to get back over to America again. At the moment, I'm doing some work on a film called Rucker, and it stars Bobby King, Jessica Cameron, and Corey Taylor from Slip, Stone Sour. Now, as you know, Fear Clinic starred Corey Taylor, and for the last how many years I haven't been able to escape the guy. I've been to Slipknot concerts. We were speaking about projects together. He tested out a game called Night Terrors that I did some work on. There's some other things in the pipeline that I'm doing with Corey at the moment. But yeah, Rucker was shot in Seattle towards the end of last year, and I could have gone over, but I had stuff on at the time, and that rendered it impossible. I'd literally be flying out to fly back home, and there was no point. But so I'm doing all the social media and associate producer work from like remotely, which is very strange because it's literally like, right, so you're producing this movie, but you're not on set, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. It's like, I think they're being very generous by giving me an associate producer credit. That's because I know Aaron, and Aaron wrote Fear Clinic, and I think he's throwing me a bone and doing me a favor of that, of which I'm very grateful. But yeah, it would have been nice to be over there because seeing everybody again. Fear Clinic and being at Screenfest over in America and Hollywood, probably the best time I've ever had in my entire life. Like the entire, I think it was like 2 or 3 months that I was over there, the amount of people that I met, the stars that I spoke to, the amount of work that I managed to get done because I was always getting the exclusives before they came to the UK. Some of the best times of Back to the Movies, that's for sure. So yeah, it would be nice to go back over again and start working more hands-on with films. But yeah, studio interviews, films, and if Disneyland come calling and want me to test out some theme park stuff, I'm over there with Mickey Mouse ears on. No questions asked.
For those that have, have exhausted, the popular series / movie / whatever, is there any you can recommend from any service? Doesn't matter which one. That we should kind of keep our eyes on, or maybe start binging?
I definitely start binge watching stuff on the Travel Channel. I know that Robert England's brought out almost like a Twilight Zone style series called True Terror that I found incredibly interesting. And also, I've become a fan of Ghost Adventures. Like Zach Bagans and Ghost Adventures are captivating me now. He's very controversial in the paranormal world, but since he set up a haunted museum in Las Vegas, I have been obsessed with visiting that place. Hence why Vegas is going to be one of the first locations that I'm going to visit once all this craziness is over. If you're interested in paranormal and horror and stuff like that, Travel Channel, I've got that in spades. Like I said before, YouTubers and vloggers, I'm finding immense satisfaction watching people unbox stuff. I don't part of my insanity, or just the fact that it's just you just don't know what's inside. So I'm watching a lot of unboxings and stuff on YouTube. But Amazon Prime as well. Amazon Prime's like sneaky underhand sort of service that not like people obviously know about. It's a big, generic, huge, massive company, but not many people seem to tune into Amazon Prime. Like they had the Picard series. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you've got stuff on there. They throw up some incredible titles, like incredible movie titles from classics to some original series. They got the Purge series, that's quite old now, but it's an oldie but a goodie. And they're constantly updating with new content. But it kind of depends what genres you're into. But if you're weird like me, just go into YouTube, type in unboxing, and knock yourself out. I'm watching guys unbox WWE belts. I'm not even a big fan of WWE, although I did get a present from The Undertaker last week.
I was going to touch on that.
That made my inner child cry. Seriously, that was incredible.
I was going to touch on that actually because Undertaker was one of my favorites. I grew up in the with the '80s Hulkamania and all that other stuff, Randy Macho Man, all that jazz, and then Undertaker was kind of my big Attitude Era / Undertaker was kind of my stopping point, and then The Rock and all that other stuff. But I haven't really watched anything since, and that was I thought the classic epitome of great wrestling in general. But how did the Undertaker thing come about?
Okay, so it was about a year ago now. I started working with a company called Monopoly Events. Now they put on Comic Cons here in the UK, and they branched out to other Comic Cons around the world, in Europe. And the first one I went to was a convention called For the Love of Horror, and I got to meet Kane Hodder, Tobin Bell from Saw, Bill Moseley, all the old cast of the It miniseries, and they just let me interview them. I was like, no other Comic Con lets you do this. Like, I know the big ones like San Diego and those guys do, but these independent ones, you usually go in, you've got a press badge around your neck, and that's the only access you get. You get free access. That's it. You can't meet anybody. You cannot speak to anybody. You do not get a front seat at the talks. You cannot take pictures with them, unless you pay an inordinate amount of money. And I couldn't believe how these guys literally booked the day before the convention to meet at a hotel, and all the stars were there. We had like stars of the Lost Boys just coming into the hotel bar. I'm like, hi everybody. It's like, what is going on? Like, this is insane. So this was a company I was like, right, I need to get behind these guys. These guys are epic. So I did a vlog for the Love of Horror, did all the interviews, did coverage. They invited me back again for another event that they did called For the Love of Sci-Fi. Dolph Lundgren was there, Sam Jones was there, John Bernthal was there. So they did that, and they do a wrestling one as well called For the Love of Wrestling. I couldn't make the For the Love of Wrestling one, but The Undertaker went to that event. So I spoke to them. I said, I didn't go, blah, 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 blah. They sent me a few little correspondence. And the next minute, what arrives in my door? Signed Undertaker urn with him actually holding it, a picture of him actually holding that very urn. I was like, okay, that's my childhood done. That's literally up there with if someone sent me a Dwayne Johnson elbow pad or a Stone Cold Steve Austin used beer or, I don't know, one of Kane's masks or something. Yeah. That was incredible. And it's awesome. But I get sent quite a lot of stuff to review, but that's the icing on the cake right there. Like I said, I'm not even a big fan of wrestling. We haven't covered wrestling much at all. But this year, I thought I'd check it out because there was no audience. It was the WrestleMania in history that had no live audience. And the best match of the entire show for me was the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. It was shot like a cinematic movie. Nice. And I thought how incredible it was from start to finish. The set was incredible. The matchup was brilliant. The set pieces and everything, how it all worked together was cool. Bit cheesy in places, but it was so well shot. And then getting that through literally a few days later was inner child, complete, fulfilled, happy forever.
Obviously, you started from a very small site. You started with a simple concept, and it became something more. It became a passion. It became a career, and people are looking at this job. Pardon the long pause. I'm just trying to phrase things.
Honestly, you're right there. Job, and it's really not, dude. It's a lifestyle that brings in a little bit of money now and again. How's that?
There you go. This lifestyle you've created for yourself that you've become accustomed to, with all the geekiness aside.
I like that.
You're very successful from that perspective. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
Hell no. No, I'm constantly I'm putting myself down every single day. Like, Sean, you need to be doing better. Well, you could be doing this, you could be doing that. It's still me doing 99.99999% of the work on Back to the Movie. For the last how many years, it's been a one-man band. I literally get one article from one writer, probably once a month. The rest of it is literally me. So I'm always thinking, right, what's the next step? Have I got this to employ new writers? Can I work out a deal with new writers to bring them on board? Always looking for new ways to kind of expand the content. But I want, at the same time, it's like if I ask somebody else to write that content, they're not going to be writing in my voice. I always write on my Back to the Movie site. There's no critics, it's just fans. So if someone approaches me with this very word heavy, big words that nobody really understands and you have to Google them, or just something that doesn't appear in the voice that I kind of want it to be, then obviously I kind of don't really want to post it. I kind of want somebody who's got the same enthusiasm to talk about movies the way you would at a pub with a friend or when you're just out with a friend. Just nice social content. And it's hard to find because everybody wants to push I'm a journalist. I did 3 years at university for this. I want to make the most best structured article I can. I just don't want that. I just don't want that. I don't want that roses are red, violets are blue crap on my website. I just want nice social content. If you want to rip a movie, you rip a movie. If you want to praise a movie, you praise a movie. I don't want that other style. I just want nice personal content that people can relate to, which is very, very rare in journalism nowadays. That's why when anyone calls me a critic or anyone calls me a journalist or similar, I'm gone. I'm not going to reply. I'm just a fan and I'm loving every second.
After success, obviously, there's failure. How do you deal with failure?
Copious amounts of alcohol and strippers.
Makes sense.
You wanted an honest answer. I give you an honest reply. But no, that aside, that is obviously it helps. It helps. But yeah, in terms of failure, I mean, it's trial and error. It's always trial and error. Literally at the start of this year, I noticed a bit of a dip in traffic. Now it's because of the coronavirus thing, and things were taking a bit dip, and advertising was all over the place, like the stock market. And as a result, if the advertising, if advertisers aren't paying as much, for example, if theaters are closing, then obviously no one's going to be advertising theaters. If cinemas are closing, no one's going to be advertising cinemas. So advertising's been like that for the start of the year, and obviously since this has got worse and worse and worse, advertising is literally like this constantly. So that was a trial and error. So it got to the point then when I was like, right, how else can I drive traffic to my website? I need the traffic to make the money. So I'm looking into SEO practices and how I can use more Google traffic efficiently, which I've never really looked at before. It mainly came from social media, looking into Pinterest and looking into doing YouTube videos and then relinking it to Back to the Movies to get people from there. Just different avenues of referring traffic to the website to make up for the little bits of traffic that I'd lost from either advertising or from people just being a bit uncertain and from films obviously not being released when they should have, and all the film delays that have caused a dip in traffic. So lots of trial and error, and you just keep going and keep going. And it's quite rare nowadays that people seem to persevere with stuff. If something's not working, people just tend to give up and leave it alone. But I've learned my lesson by now that just to never give up and just keep at it and keep at it, just keep trying different things until something works, because something will eventually work. It's just one of them. If you've got the patience and the perseverance and the time to do those things, then it's worth just keep going and keep going, keep fiddling, and just try and find something that works, and hopefully something does. And it's still not perfect. Speaking right now, looking at my website, I'm not happy with today's traffic right now, this very second. So as soon as I'm going to do after this call, and I've done that little screener review that I told you about before the call, I'll be on Google again. How can I refer this? How can I do that? And just little more tips, tricks to guide more traffic to the website to get it up to a number that I'm at least very minimally satisfied with. I'm always doing something. I'm always trying to reach to get higher and to get more and to get better, because what's the point? Why stop now when literally I'm an independent film blog, and every single day I'm going up against some of the biggest press outlets in the world. All the biggest outlets in the world cover movies. Why should anyone care about an independent film blogger from Stoke-on-Trent? So that's the kind of fight that I'm up against every day. It's always a David and Goliath. It's always like, right, today, for example, posting that Maggie Simpson short film review. I was competing with IGN straight away. They reviewed it. I saw straight away. Letterboxd had put something up, and a few other big websites as well. Straight away, I'm up against big people before I've even typed a single word on the screen. And I literally tweaked my SEO a little bit, posted a different angle on the review, added an image that nobody else had added, set myself out from the rest, and I'm not above them, but I'm amongst them, and that's all I aim to be. As long as I'm in the mix, that's all that matters. As long as they're not trampling over me, I'm happy. As long as I'm in the mix and competing, then I'm happy. If I'm starting to rank alongside them, then the numbers should even out eventually.
It's the small steps. It really is. Everyone has kind of that one person that inspired them on their path of where they are today. Who was that for you?
That's a good question. I didn't really. There isn't really one person that stands out.
Okay, give me two.
Even two, like it's kind of a mixture, I mean,
It's all good.
In terms of, there's not really one person in the blogging world, because at the time I was a movie blogger. I didn't really know anything other than the site name of other blogs. But you look up to people who have been successful by making that content. Now, they're not my personal role models, but you can be inspired by people like Logan Paul and by Mo vlogs I used to watch on YouTube all the time, just vloggers that have gone out there, done their own thing, and been successful. David Dobrik, people like that. I'm always admired and inspired by people who have achieved what people have said they could never do. Like the other day, I was reading The Dirt, the Motley Crue book, and for the first, I don't know, 2 chapters, there's literally record labels saying, you guys will never make it. There's already Kiss. Why would anybody else want to listen to you? And other books, Corey Taylor's, when he first started, everyone was saying, you're never going to make it. Slash, when he first started, you're never going to make it. It's just an abundance of people who have been told that they can't do something, usually by people. Anybody who says that you can't do this or you can't do that, they're the people that have usually failed at what you're about to do. So those are the kind of people who inspire me, the people that have gone above that and achieved something. So there isn't really one person that I've ever felt inspired by, or things like that. It's a multitude of people that have achieved it in any walk of life, from any background, any upbringing, from Eminem to Tupac to to big speakers, Tony Robbins, from Corey Wayne, who's even a dating relationship expert, but he's overcome the odds and he's made it famous. You've got entrepreneur Steve Jobs, who was working out of a garage, and boom, Apple. Anybody like that. It's a plethora of people who inspire me rather than a singular person, if that's any consolation.
No, that works out well. The younger generation obviously are very technologically savvy. They're doing their own thing, but they may have stumbled across Back to the Movies and yourself in times of maybe their initial creation, and they became inspired to create whatever they're creating. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
You've got some good questions here, Kurt. You've been thinking a lot about these. This is quite deep for a Sunday evening over here in the UK. But in terms of the next generation, first of all, I apologise to that younger generation for stumbling upon my website and reading that content. I do apologise, because most of it is quite adult content or adult worded content. So I do apologise. But in terms of them inspiring the next generation, it's about doing that something different. Like everybody, since this isolation, let's go on TikTok. I'm going to be a TikTok star. No, you are not. That's going to take a hell of a lot longer than the month or 2 months or 3 months or however you've been on it to get to where the big names are. It's going to take a lot of work. I don't think it's so much about the content that people are posting, that younger generation. It's not so much about how much they write, quantity. It's always about quality. But the one thing that's always going to shine head and shoulders above the rest is that willingness to succeed. Because the younger generation just give up so easily. It's that swipe left or swipe right generation that everything's got to be handed to them on a plate. And even though I am a percentage within that sort of millennial bracket, I don't have the same mindset. So even though I do want certain things on a plate, I'd rather create my own plate, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of on the cusp of between two generations of mindset there. But I think what's going to shine head and shoulders above the rest is perseverance. If you keep making content, if you keep proving to people that you're determined to succeed, if you've got a tunnel vision and everybody else has told you can't do it, and you're still focusing on achieving that, that's going to shine head and shoulders above the rest. It's all about mindset. Work hard, keep working harder. You can never work too hard. There's always another level that you can reach to, and I think that'll shine head and shoulders above the rest. And that in itself is inspiring because it's so damn rare nowadays. It really, really is.
Good stuff. Well, I hate to say this here, but that ends this particular interview of course, Two Geeks Talking. Before we go, let you plug your social media and where we can find you on it, and then I'll do my closing.
So you can find me on my website, backtothemovies.com. If you go on Twitter, type in Back to the Movies, you'll find me on there. Instagram is Back to the Movies page. Or like I've been telling everybody else lately, because there's much better content on it at the moment, follow my personal Instagram page, which is Evo, EVVO 1991. And you can see behind the curtain of the craziness of Back to the Movies. And yes, cover one eye. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe two.
Good stuff there. Well, thank you, Sean, as always, for coming on the show. We got to do this more frequently than we did the last time because, you know, you're an interesting guy and you have some great content, and I can't wait to see what you're doing next for sure.
Well, thanks, man. Hopefully I don't see you again another 6 years. Just keep messaging me every year. I'll jump on and give you guys an update of the craziness that's going on in the world of Sean. Maybe I'll have jumped off a 900-foot tower by then, or maybe this might be the last ever interview because I jumped off a 900-foot tower. So, you know, whatever.
Let's hopefully your safety first. Let's make it that way.
Safety first.
We want you to stick around for many decades to come. That being said, of course, you can find this interview on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. You can, of course, find this information on our website. I am still updating the website as well. I finally remembered what the password was, so it kind of works out for me, so I can actually start posting more content there. Side note, the old YouTube channel that I had for TGT webcomics, I think it was, way back when, I finally gained access to that, so I'm going to be taking over 240 interviews I did from 10 years ago, and I'm going to bring them back to my main channel. So I'm look forward to some great old/new content if you haven't seen that. So that's a huge weight off my mind. That being said, thank you again for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking. Of course, my name is Kurt Sasso. You can find me at Kurt Sasso on all of the social medias. And tune in for another great interview next time with whoever we have on, because they're awesome and you're awesome for listening and watching. Thanks again.